Hello, my dear ones. My name is Margaret Rose. If you don't mind, I'd like to sit here with you a while and tell you a little about how it was. And if you're listening somewhere far away, maybe write in the comments where you are from and how old you are. It's always nice to imagine the faces on the other side of the silence. The kettle is humming in the kitchen. Your phones glow like little lanterns, blue and white lights flickering across your cheeks. I'm not offended. No. I know this is how you live now. Always connected, always scrolling. But sometimes I think, if I don't say these things out loud, if I keep holding them in my chest, then who will ever know them once I'm gone? So let me speak, even if you're only half listening, even if your ears catch just one or two pieces. A word caught is better than a word buried. When I was a child, there were no glowing screens, only the voices of neighbors echoing across the yard, the slam of laundry against the washboard, the heavy thud of boots coming home after work. I grew up in a small town called Willowbrook. It wasn't special to anyone else, but it was my whole world. We had an open courtyard between the buildings where children ran barefoot on cracked pavement, where in the evenings mothers sat on benches, gossiping, and fathers smoked their cigarettes, pretending not to listen. My own mother, Annabelle, was not one for gossip. She had a stern jaw, hands always chapped from soap and work, and a way of looking at you that could freeze you in your tracks. She used to say, if you give your word, you keep it. Doesn't matter if you're tired, doesn't matter if you're scared. Your word is the only thing that no one can take away. I was maybe 7 when I first tested that lesson. I had promised a neighbor girl I'd help her carry water from the pump. But when the hour came, it was cold and I wanted to stay near the stove. My mother saw me hovering, saw the girl struggling outside with the buckets, and she gave me that look. Not angry, just steady. I remember wrapping my shawl tight, stomping out into the wind, and my small arms burning as I lifted that handle. The water sloshed against my legs, freezing my skin, but I kept going. And when the buckets were set down at last, the girl's smile was so wide it seemed to light the whole courtyard. That was the first time I felt it, the quiet strength that comes when you keep your word, even if no one else would notice. My mother noticed. She didn't say, "Well done." She just put a cup of warm milk in front of me later, and that was enough. Years passed, as they do. Childhood yards give way to new streets. My father found work in a larger city, and we packed what little we had into a few boxes and left Willowbrook. I cried the whole ride in the bus, clutching the seat, watching the trees blur by. It felt like betrayal to leave the place where my first memories lived. I was 11, and the world beyond our little town seemed too wide, too sharp. The city smelled of smoke and metal. The apartment was smaller, the stairwell darker. Children there didn't know me, and I didn't know their games. The first day at school, I stood by the wall with my notebook pressed to my chest, afraid to open my mouth because my accent marked me as country. They laughed when I mispronounced a word. For a long time I walked home with tears caught in my throat, not daring to let them spill where anyone could see. But you know, fear doesn't last forever. One evening, I heard my mother humming in the kitchen as she chopped onions, and something about that tune familiar, steady made me realize I wasn't as lost as I thought. Home is not a courtyard or a street, it's the people who remind you who you are. Slowly, I began to answer when the city children teased me. Sometimes with a joke, sometimes with silence. I learned that silence can be stronger than words if you stand tall enough. I don't tell you these things to sound heroic. They're small, ordinary moments, but they are the bones of who I became. And sometimes I worry that in your world of flashing messages and 10-second clips, those bones are invisible, that you see only the surface and forget the weight beneath. Do you hear that kettle whistling? It's calling for me. Wait a moment, yes, there it is, shrill as a bird trapped by the window. They'll pour the tea in just a second. I always keep lemon and honey on the table. When I was a girl, honey was rare, saved for when someone was sick. Now I spoon it into my cup just to remember that sweetness can be ordinary, too. I wonder, do you taste what I'm saying? Not just hear it, but tasted the sting of cold water against a child's legs, the dusty smell of cardboard boxes in a move, the sharp tang of onion in a mother's kitchen. Stories live in the senses. If I close my eyes, I am there again, standing in that yard, hearing my mother's voice say, "Keep your word." And in the same moment, I am here in this room with you barely glancing up from your screens, 2 times folded together. And so, my dears, if you ever find yourselves moving to a place that feels too large, if you tremble at being strange and unseen, remember what I learned. The ground under your feet belongs to you once you decide to stand on it. Fear is heavy only until you carry it once. After that, it becomes part of your step. That is enough for tonight's beginning. Maybe tomorrow, or in the next story, I will tell you about the first dance where I met a boy named Alex, or about the time I refused to sign a paper at the factory even though it cost me dearly. But for now, I'll sip this tea, sweet with honey, and be glad that I have spoken these words aloud. They no longer live only in me. They live in the air, and perhaps, if you let them, in you. The tea has cooled a little, and have placed the cup back on the table. You know, when I sit in this quiet house, I often think of how quickly years vanish. One moment you are a young girl carrying buckets of water with freezing hands, and the next you are 67, with silver hair that refuses to lie flat no matter how you brush it. And between those 2 moments is a life so full, so heavy, it sometimes feels like it could overflow. That is what I want to share with you because the world may change, but the truths in a heart do not. Do you know how I first met Alex? You call him Grandpa, though he's been gone many years now. It was at a town dance. My friends dragged me along, though I protested. I was shy then, believe it or not. I wore a dress I had sewn myself from fabric scraps, nothing fashionable, just a plain blue with a little white lace at the collar. I thought no one would even notice me. But Alexo, he had a way of looking. His eyes were not the sharpest blue, not the darkest brown, just a steady, gentle color like the sky before rain. And when he asked me to dance, my heart beat so hard I was sure everyone in the room could hear it. He wasn't handsome in the way magazines pretend men should be, but he carried himself with a quiet certainty. When he held my hand, I felt, for the first time, safe. That may sound simple, but believe me, safety is a treasure. In a world that can betray you in an instant, finding someone who holds your hand as though hell never let it go, it changes everything. Our courtship was not filled with roses and poetry. No, it was walks along the river, long talks on cold benches, and evenings where we split a single piece of cake because money was tight. He would tease me by saying, "Margaret, when we are old and gray, I'll still steal the last bite from your plate." And I would pretend to be annoyed, though secretly I hoped that day would come. And it did, for a while. When we married, it was nothing fancy. A simple ceremony, a borrowed veil, a reception in the backyard with neighbors bringing pies and bottles of cheap wine. But I remember standing beside him, my hand tucked into his, and thinking, I'm no longer alone in this world. That thought carried me through many storms. Life was not easy. I found work at a textile factory. Do you know the sound of looms? Endless, pounding, rattling, like the heartbeat of a giant machine that never sleeps. We worked long hours, and the air was filled with lint that stuck to your clothes, your hair, even your eyelashes. Some women coughed for years because of it. But wages were wages, and we needed them. One day, the managers brought a paper for us to sign. It said we agreed to extra hours without pay. Most of the women, weary and afraid, signed. But I looked at that paper and felt fire rise in me. I remembered my mother's words, "If you give your word, you keep it." They had promised us fair pay, and now they wanted to break it. So I refused. The foreman scowled at me, said I was foolish, said I'd lose my job. And maybe I should have trembled, but instead I looked him in the eye and said, "A job taken by lies is worse than no job at all." My hands shook afterward, oh yes. I cried in the bathroom, afraid I had doomed us. But do you know what happened? Other women, braver than they thought, also refused. And in the end, the factory backed down. I kept my job. More importantly, I kept my word. That was one of the proudest days of my life, though I didn't tell anyone. Sometimes pride lives best in silence. Alex was proud of me, though. When I told him, he kissed my forehead and said, "That's my Margaret, stronger than the steel they build their machines from." And I laughed, though inside I glowed. Because when someone truly sees you, the fight doesn't feel so heavy. We had little money, but we had love, and that was enough. Or at least, it felt enough then. When the children came first, your father, then your aunt, the house grew smaller, but the laughter grew louder. Nights were sleepless, mornings were chaotic, but those tiny hands clutching my finger were worth every tear. Still, life tests us, always. Alex's job at the construction site was dangerous. I worried every day when he left with his lunch pail. And one evening, he didn't come home on time. Hours passed. The door stayed closed. I paced until my knees ached. Then came the knock. Two men with solemn faces. There had been an accident. He was alive, thank God, but badly hurt. For months he lay in bed, broken bones knitting slow as winter ice. I became nurse, mother, and worker all at once. I was exhausted, but never allowed myself to collapse. Do you know what I learned then? That strength is not a roar. It is a whisper that says, just one more day. You don't have to be unbreakable. You just have to bend without snapping. And oh, I bent. I bent until I thought I would shatter. But each morning I rose, washed his face, fed the children, went to the factory, and returned to hold his hand through the night. When he healed enough to walk again, we held each other like survivors of a storm. Because that's what we were. And though years later other storms came, betrayals, losses, disappointments, that season taught me how to endure. Sometimes, when I see you all buried in your glowing phones, I wonder if you understand that strength. You read stories of heroes and warriors, but you don't always see the quiet heroes sitting beside you. Strength is not in battles on screens, it is in the woman who carries water in the cold, in the wife who refuses to sign a dishonest paper, in the mother who works and waits and holds her family together. I know you smile politely, nodding while your thumbs tap messages to friends. I don't hold it against you. Perhaps one day, when the world grows heavy on your shoulders, my words will surface in your memory, and you'll remember that you come from women who endured. From me, my tea is nearly gone. The house is still quiet. Outside, the street lamp flickers, and I hear the faint rustle of the wind against the shutters. It feels strange, speaking so much into the air, unsure if anyone truly listens. But I keep speaking. Because silence, though comfortable, can also be a prison, and I have lived too much, fought too much, to let my voice disappear. So, my dears, carry this part of my story with you. Love may not always be grand, but it is shelter. Work may grind you down, but it can also build your backbone. And strength is not in never falling, it is in rising, again and again, until one day you look back and see how far you've come. The night grows deeper as I speak, and the shadows in the corners seem to lean closer, as if they want to hear. I suppose even walls remember, don't they? They have absorbed my laughter, my anger, my tears. They carry the echoes of arguments and lullabies. And tonight, they carry my confession. Not everything in life is sweetness. You see, love and family can hold both your greatest joy and your sharpest wound. And sometimes, the ones you trust most can be the ones who cut deepest. That is a truth I learned slowly, painfully, like touching a flame again and again until the skin learns not to reach. There was a time when I believed loyalty was uncheckable, that if you gave your heart and your word, others would mirror it back. Alex and I built our family on that idea: honesty, trust, togetherness. For many years it seemed enough. The children grew, we managed. We faced hardships, yes, but we stood side by side. But people are not stone. They shift, they hide things, they make choices you cannot control. And one such choice nearly broke me. It was your aunt, your father's sister, my daughter. Her name I will not repeat too often, for it still catches in my throat. She was clever, sharp-tongued, always one step ahead of others. From childhood, I both admired and feared her spirit. She could charm anyone, twist any story, and often did. But as her mother, I believed she would outgrow her mischief, that she would settle into honesty. When she was 19, she met a man. Oh, how she sparkled around him. Her laughter rang louder, her eyes glowed, and I thought, perhaps she has found what I found in Alex, someone steady, someone true. I welcomed him into our home, fed him at our table, trusted him with my daughter's heart. But soon whispers reached me. Neighbors, friends, they spoke of his gambling, his debts, his temper. I asked her gently, carefully. She brushed me off, said I worried too much, said people loved to gossip. And maybe they did. But a mother feels when the earth trembles under her child's feet. One night, late, I heard shouting outside. I rushed to the door and found her crying, his hand still raised as if the air had not yet settled from the blow. My blood turned to ice. Alex pulled him away, his voice firm, his body shaking with anger I rarely saw. We sent him off into the night, and I held her as she sobbed, promising it would end, that she would leave him. But she did not. Love, or what she thought was love, chained her to him. Weeks later, she ran off with him, leaving only a note. No goodbye kiss, no explanation, just scribbled words, I know what I'm doing. Don't try to stop me. That paper cut deeper than any blade. For months we heard nothing. Silence is a crueler torment than anger. You lie awake wondering if they are safe, if they eat, if they even remember you. And then came the news, debts unpaid, lies told in her name, money borrowed from neighbors under the promise of repayment that never came. People knocked on my door, demanding answers. My cheeks burned with shame I hadn't earned. Betrayal is not only in leaving it, is in dragging your familyless name through the mud until even strangers spit it out. I wanted to despise her. I wanted to erase her from my heart. But a mother's heart is stubborn. Even when torn, it clings. I prayed for her even as I paid debts I hadn't made. I defended her even when my voice cracked with doubt. And still I carried her memory like a stone in my pocket, too heavy to throw away, too painful to hold. Alex bore it differently. He grew quiet. He fixed things around the house with unnecessary force, hammering nails harder than needed. He didn't speak much of her, but I could see the disappointment weighing on him like an anchor. Sometimes I caught him staring at the road, as if hoping she'd appear at the gate, child again, running home. But she never did. You know, betrayal doesn't just wound, it reshapes you. It taught me that even the bonds of blood are fragile. You can give everything, your time, your labor, your love, and still watch it scatter like dust in the wind. It taught me that sometimes justice doesn't come from outside. You carry it inside by refusing to let bitterness consume you. Did I forgive her? That question gnawed at me for years. Forgiveness is not a switch you flip, it is a path you walk. Some days I walked further, some days I stumbled back. Even now, at 67, I cannot say the path is complete, but I try, because hatred left unchecked poisons only the vessel that carries it. The years rolled on. We managed without her, though her absence hung in the air like an unfinished sentence. Your father stayed, worked hard, built his own family. For that, I am grateful. But I never stopped setting an extra plate at Christmas, hoping. That plate often went untouched, and I often went to bed with tears hidden behind closed doors. Then came another blow, Alex's illness. Not sudden like his accident years before, but slow, creeping. A cough that lingered, a weakness in his step, a weariness in his eyes. At first, he waved it off. Just age, he said, smiling faintly, but I knew better. I saw the shadow creeping behind him, and it chilled me. Doctors confirmed what I feared. A sickness with no cure, only time. How cruel, after surviving so much, to be told there was nothing left but waiting. He bore it with grace. I tried to match him, but inside I raged. It felt unjust, like a thief robbing us of years we had earned. The months of his illness tested me more than any factory floor, more than any betrayal. Watching the man you love fade is a torment beyond words. I fed him spoonful by spoonful, wiped his brow, held his hand through nights of pain. And all the while, I spoke, telling stories, memories, jokes, anything to keep him anchored. Sometimes he laughed softly, sometimes he just squeezed my hand. On his last morning, the house was quiet. Sunlight slipped through the curtains. He looked at me with that same gentle color in his eyes, the sky before rain. And he whispered, "Margaret, don't stop living." Those were his final words. Not poetic, not grand. Just simple truth. Don't stop living. After he was gone, the silence of the house grew unbearable. I wandered from room to room, touching his tools, his books, the coat still hanging by the door. Grief is a strange companion. It wraps around you, heavy but invisible. People told me to be strong. I smiled, nodded, but at night I clutched his pillow and wept until dawn. And yet, even then, I remembered his words. Don't stop living. So I forced myself to keep moving, to plant flowers in the yard, to bake bread, to breathe through each day. Not because I wanted to, but because he asked me to. And when someone gives you their last words, you carry them as sacred. So here I am, decades later, still breathing, still speaking, still telling stories. Betrayals tried to silence me. Loss tried to bury me. But I am here, because silence is worse than sorrow. And living, even when it aches, is the only way to honor the love and lessons that shaped me. Do you see, my dears? These are not just tales of long ago. They are pieces of me, and through me, pieces of you. Someday, you may face your own betrayals, your own losses. When you do, remember, you come from a woman who bent but did not break. You come from love that endured storms. And if nothing else, let that give you courage. Time has a way of folding in on itself. Some days I feel as if Alex just spoke to me, as if his voice is still warm in the air. Other days I look in the mirror and wonder where the young girl went, the girl who danced barefoot in the grass, who believed the world would bend to her will. The truth is, life bends us, shapes us, and sometimes it leaves us crooked. But here I am, crooked or not, still standing. After Alex was gone, I thought perhaps the silence would consume me. It nearly did. But then came you, the grandchildren. You became my reason to rise in the mornings, my reason to keep the kettle warm, my reason to keep stories alive. I saw in your faces the echo of him, the tilt of a smile, the spark in your laughter. You were my reminder that love doesn't end, it just shifts form. I wanted so badly to pass on everything I had learned. Not because I thought I was wise, heavens, I made more mistakes than I can count. But because I knew that the world doesn't wait. It teaches harshly, cruelly. And I wanted to soften that blow for you, to offer you lessons that might spare you the sharpest edges of life. So I told stories. Do you remember? I'd sit at the kitchen table with a plate of cookies and you'd listen, at least in the beginning. I told you about the factory, about Alex's kindness, about the betrayals I had endured. I told you how a single word could heal, how silence could wound, how forgiveness was both the hardest and the most necessary act of all. But as the years passed, your attention slipped. At first it was just fidgeting, a glance toward the window, a question about when you could go outside. Then it was the glow of screens, phones, tablets, little machines I never quite understood. You nod at me, smile politely, but your eyes were elsewhere. And oh, how that cut me, sharper than any stranger's slight. Do you know what it feels like to pour your heart into words and see them vanish before they land? To speak truths carved from decades of sorrow and endurance, only to have them drowned out by a buzz, a notification, a flashing light. It feels like shouting into a storm. It feels like becoming invisible. I don't blame you. Truly, I don't. The world you live in is not the world I knew. Everything is faster now, noisier, brighter. Attention is pulled in 1,000 directions, and an old woman's stories cannot compete with the endless stream of voices pouring from a device. I understand. But understanding doesn't make it hurt less. There are nights I sit alone at this table and wonder if my words will die with me. If the lessons I bled for will vanish like smoke when I am gone. What good is wisdom if it cannot be heard? What good is experience if it is ignored? Sometimes I think silence is winning, that the storm of modern life has drowned me out completely. And yet I keep speaking. I keep telling the stories, even if you only half listen, even if your eyes drift. Because I believe, stubbornly, that something will land. That one day, when life cuts you as it cut me, you will remember. Perhaps not the details, perhaps not even my face, but a sentence, a phrase, a fragment of truth will rise from your memory and guide you. That is why I go on. Not for applause, not for attention, but for the chance, just the chance that my voice will echo in you when you need it most. Sometimes I grow angry. I admit it. I snap at you when you scroll through your phones as I speak. I say harsh words, accuse you of disrespect. I regret it afterward. Anger is only love twisted by fear, the fear that I will be forgotten, that I will vanish not only from the earth but from your hearts. You may think I am only nostalgic, that I long for the past because I cannot grasp the present. But it is not nostalgia, it is longing for connection. The past, with all its pain and beauty, is the language I speak. And I am desperate for you to understand it because without it, you cannot know who you are. There is one memory that haunts me, perhaps more than any betrayal or loss. It is not dramatic. It is small, quiet. I was telling a story, I don't even remember which one, and I looked up to see your faces lit not by curiosity, but by the blue glow of your screens. In that moment, I felt myself fade, as if I were less real than the images flickering before you. I wanted to shout, to pound the table, to demand that you look at me, hear me. But instead, I went silent. Do you know what silence does to a person who has already lost so much? It feels like the final erasure. And yet even in that silence, I made a vow. I would not stop speaking. Because if I fall silent, if I surrender, then the stories truly die. And I cannot allow that. I know you may think me dramatic. Perhaps I am. Age has a way of sharpening emotions, of stripping away the polite masks we wear in youth. But understand this, I am not speaking only for myself. I am speaking for all those who came before me, for my mother, who worked her fingers raw in the fields, for my father, who taught me dignity even in poverty, for Alex, who loved me with a steady hand, for every ancestor whose names you do not even know. Their lives, their sacrifices, flow through me to you. If you close your ears, you do not only silence me, you silence them. And so I plead with you, though perhaps not aloud, perhaps only in the quiet corners of my heart, put down the screen if only for a moment. Look at me, hear me, not because I am perfect, not because I never faltered, but because I lived, I endured. And what I have to give you is not entertainment, not distraction, but truth. One day, you will need it. Life will not spare you. It will test you, betray you, break you, and then ask you to rise again. And when that day comes, I pray that my words will surface in your soul like a lifeline. I'm not asking for worship, nor even constant attention. Only a fragment of your time, a fragment of your heart. Enough to keep the stories alive. Enough to keep me alive within you, even after I am gone. Because that is the true fear of the old, not death itself, but being erased. Being forgotten, becoming a name in a faded photo, a voice no one remembers. I will keep speaking until my voice fails. I will keep telling the stories until breath leaves me. Because silence may be powerful, but I am more stubborn still. And perhaps one day you will set your phone aside, lift your eyes, and realize that the stories you once dismissed are the very ones you needed most. I sometimes wonder if I speak too much about the past. Perhaps you think I cling to it the way ivy clings to a crumbling wall, stubborn, unnecessary, even suffocating. But the past is not just mine. It is yours too, whether you claim it or not. Without roots, even the tallest tree will fall. I remember when your mother was little, how she would look at me with wide eyes, soaking up every word. She didn't always agree with me, Lord knows we argued enough, but she listened. And even when she walked away in anger, I could see the gears turning, the lessons sinking in. But with you, my sweet ones, I don't always know. I see only the glow of screens, the curve of your smiles at something far away, out of reach. Sometimes, late at night, I imagine a future where I am gone, where this house is empty and only dust remembers my footsteps. Will you think of me then? Will you wish you had listened longer? Or will I fade, as so many before me have faded, into the quiet fog of forgotten lives? That thought chills me more than death itself. I want to tell you something if never admitted aloud. After Alex died, I nearly let myself become silent forever. There was a night I sat right here, at this very table, and I thought, what's the point of speaking when no one hears? I held my teacup and felt the weight of silence pressing down, heavy as stone. For a moment, I believed the world would go on just fine if my stories died with me. But then I heard his voice, no, not in the room, not as a ghost, but in my memory, in the marrow of my bones. He used to tell me, truth doesn't vanish just because someone isn't listening. Truth waits. It waits until the heart is ready. And I thought of you. I thought, one day, perhaps when you're older, when life has bruised you, you will be ready. And so I spoke again. I keep speaking still. You may not know it, but every word I share is stitched from blood and bone. Every story costs something. It drags pieces of me back into the light, even the painful ones I'd rather keep hidden. I do this not because I enjoy it, but because I believe it matters. You see, betrayal and loss, they shape us, but they don't define us. What defines us is what we do after. When my friend lied to me, when neighbors whispered, when love was ripped away, I had two choices: close my heart or open it wider. I chose the second, though it nearly broke me. That is what I want you to know, that strength is not hard fists or cold silence. Strength is choosing to love again, to trust again, to hope again, even when the world gives you every reason not to. I fear sometimes that the noise of your world teaches the opposite, that it tells you to move fast, keep scrolling, don't dwell, don't feel too deeply. But feelings are not weaknesses. Memories are not burdens. They are the soil that keeps you steady when the storm comes. And it will come, my loves. It always does. So if you hear nothing else, hear this. Do not turn away from the weight of your story. Carry it, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts, because it will give you the strength to endure what comes next. You may laugh, you may smile politely as you check your phones, but someday those phones will not answer you back. Someday you will sit in silence and realize you need more than flashing lights. You will need the voices of those who came before you. And if you remember me, then, even for a heartbeat, I will not have lived in vain. I'm not asking for monuments. I'm not asking for books or statues or grand speeches. All I ask is this: when you sit at your own kitchen table, decades from now, and your grandchildren glance away, distracted, you will remember this moment. You will remember me speaking through the years, asking you to hold fast, to keep the stories alive. And perhaps, with patience, you will do for them what I tried to do for you. Because in the end, legacy is not fame, nor riches, nor even survival. Legacy is memory. It is the whisper that carries forward when the voice is gone. And so, even if you never put down your screens, even if my words bounce off your bright world like pebbles on glass, I will still keep speaking. Because love does not give up. Love is stubborn, and I love you too much to fall silent. You know, my loves, when I look back now, I see not only the shadows, but also the light that has always been there, sometimes faint, sometimes bright. Life gave me both the cruelty of loss and betrayal, yes, but also the laughter of children, the warmth of hands held, the miracle of another sunrise after a night I thought would never end. I think that is what I wish you to understand most, that no life is only sorrow and no life is only joy. We are stitched together from both, like a quilt pieced from scraps, some dark, some shining. And the beauty lies not in the perfection of any one piece, but in the whole, in the way it all comes together to keep us warm. Sometimes I wish I could gather you all here, take away the screens and the buzzing and the noise, and just hold your hands like I once did when you were little. Back then, you trusted that I had the answers. Now, perhaps you believe I am only a relic, speaking too much of things gone by. But one day, yes, one day you will see that answers are not hidden in machines or speed, but in the slow, steady heartbeat of those who loved you first. Do not be afraid of slowing down. Do not be afraid of silence. Silence is where memory lives, where you can hear the faint voices of those who walked before you. In that silence, you will find me too, even when I am no longer sitting in this chair. And if life wounds you, and it will, my darlings, do not turn bitter. Let your scars remind you that you survived, that you still have something to give. The world has a strange way of breaking us open so that light can shine through the cracks. Remember that when the night feels endless. Remember that you come from a line of people who endured, who carried burdens heavier than their own hearts and still managed to love. I will not always be here to repeat these words, but they are yours now, stitched into you, whether you notice or not. One day, you may find yourself saying them to your own children or whispering them to yourself in a quiet kitchen when the house feels too empty. And when you do, I hope you feel me beside you, because I am not only your grandmother. I'm the echo of all who came before me, just as you are the seed of all who will come after. That is the chain that binds us, stronger than distance, stronger than death, stronger even than silence. So let me leave you with this. Cherish the ones you love while you can. Say the words while the ears are still here to hear them. Do not wait for the perfect moment, it rarely comes. A kind word, a phone call, a hand on the shoulder, these are small things, but they are the things that keep hearts alive. And when you think of me, do not think only of the trials, or the pain, or the times I spoke too long while you smiled at your screens. Think of the woman who believed and loved despite everything, who refused to be silent even when no one seemed to listen, who trusted that someday, somehow, her words would find their way into your hearts. I believe they will. And that belief, my loves, is enough. So I will put down my teacup now and let the quiet return. But know this, my story is not an ending. It is a thread woven into yours. Carry it well. And when the time comes, speak it forward. Someone will need it, just as you needed it even if you don't know it yet. If you liked this story, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to the following story, click on the window on the left. Thanks for watching.